Then at the table we have Alex Poel, managing partner and co-founder of Ruler. Welcome,
Hello.
Alex. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Could you explain a little bit what Ruler is or does?
Yes, of course. Ruler is a software application where we track legislation. So regulation is becoming more and more complex, is here to stay. And what we do with Ruler is making the regulations less complex and more accessible to different stakeholders. Regulations is more generic, is generic like the GDPR or the MDR. And what we do is break regulations up and make them accessible to different stakeholders, different entities with different needs for regulations.
Could you give an example?
We are very strong in the financial services industry for the moment, and the regulation is a generic regulation in the Netherlands and also in Europe. But if you are a bank, you only want to see the regulations for the bank, okay, and not for the insurance companies. So we broke down these regulations, and we make it specific for a bank. And within a bank, you have a mortgages or savings. And for mortgages, the regulations is different than for savings. So we broke that up. So if you want to see what happens in the mortgages area, you can go to that and see immediately what is applicable to you. Okay. And what we also do is that we keep track of publications on regulations. So every day there is publications from regulators, policymakers. They start with Q&As, and we keep track of that. And if it affects the way you need to cope with regulations, we publish that and send out an alert to our clients. In addition, we also track what is coming up for the next 3 to 4 years, so that you're not surprised by the regulations that are coming, which could be affecting the way you need to set up your company.
Because do you have like a glass ball? How do you know what will be coming up in the regulations?
Good
do you have
questions.
special contacts in the governments or lawmakers?
It takes a while to set up new regulations. So you can track that since it is announced, and it takes a while to set it up. There's a consultation of it, and before it becomes effective, it takes a couple of years sometimes.
You're just watching at the beginning.
That's how we track that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then looking at the personalized medicine today, like I already said, and we already heard with the speakers before you, it's very personal. So there's a lot of legislation, laws, because we want to preserve our privacy, and it's very important. But we also encounter new problems that we didn't know would even exist in the future. So a lot of new regulations, I think.
Yeah. So what we think is that it would be helpful to see what is coming up, and to make sure that new initiatives can easily see what regulations is currently applicable and what is coming up and what is could be a burden for them to develop and to innovate. And by showing that, they can address that timely. And on the other hand, we can take that to policymakers to make sure that regulations adapt to new developments, new initiatives, innovation.
Yeah, because like we had Katinka before you, and she's busy making this system for hospitals, for customers. So she has a lot of need for regulations also. So I could imagine that she doesn't only want to know passively what's coming, but also actively talk with somebody that what she needs as a regulation.
Yeah, and by dividing the regulations, current regulations, into themes, subjects, which specifically addresses her needs, we can make sure that she's always on top of what the regulations tell her to do, where she needs to comply with, and in a more or in a less complex way than always looking at the full text of regulations, which is sometimes thousands of papers.
Yeah, that's way too much. Looking at the session that we had here today, was there something specific that you that stood out for you?
Yeah, what you see is that individual companies cope with regulations, and they all face the same or almost the same burdens if they are developing or innovating. And as mentioned in the session, there is a sandbox method, so you can discuss it with regulators. But if you do that on an individual basis, that's not as strongly as you do it in close cooperation with others. And by using the system we have, Ruler, we can see what are the burdens of the different companies, bring that together and bring that to the regulator in a collaborative way. So that would be the best takeoff of the value track network of today.
Oh, that's good. Because a call to action, not a call to action.
Well, a call to action is to see with different companies that are struggling with regulations right now, to sit around in a workshop and to see how we can cope with that and help them in making it less complex, and to bring it together to take that to regulators to stay on top of new initiatives.
Clear. And if they have questions, they can go to Alex Poel at Ruler. Yeah,
they can.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.